Hey, so good to be with you. My name is Jeff Fuller, J Fuller Interviews on YouTube, the Facebook group, Twitter, and Instagram. J Fuller Interviews. Apologize for the miscue at the beginning. I was trying to broadcast from LinkedIn, but I guess I cannot do that now. But right now, joining me, a great guest is Buzz Peterson. Buzz, how are you?
Doing great, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, thank you for making the time. You joined me on my radio show, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, and I was just overwhelmed by your friendship, I would say, just making time for someone that you do not know. When you first thought about North Carolina basketball, did you realize the reach that you would eventually have?
No, you're not really. I mean, I grew up in the state. I grew up in Asheville, the western part of the state, North Carolina. So I didn't know that what it would bring nationally. But we were a pretty good basketball team. So when you win NCAA tournament, that brings on a lot there. So it's yeah, a lot of places you go throughout the country, people recognize that you played there or your number 23's roommate.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We'll get to that in a moment. But when you were coming out of high school, how many options did you have as far as college? Did you always want to go to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill?
It was kind of, you grew up in the state, you liked it a lot. I remember, back then you could visit six schools, and I verbally committed to Kentucky at one time. They had one scholarship with Joe B. Hall was there. Joe B. Hall, Joe Dean Jr., and Leonard Hamilton, and that's where I was headed. But Michael and I had a good relationship, so we said we're going to play at the same school together. So that's why I ended up at North Carolina. But I had a love for North Carolina. I also visited Maryland with Lefty Drizel. Clemson was close by to my house, like an hour. Tennessee, because a lot of people, my family was from that area, and Virginia. So and Duke also. So I don't know if I visited Virginia, but Duke I did. That was Krzyzewski's his first class. So anyway, it's so many years ago. I couldn't even remember all the places I did go visit.
Now, a quick question for you. We just dropped off my son for college in Michigan. He's attending a small school there. Then he wants to transfer after he gets his residency. But for me as his dad, it's very tough. And there's like a hole in our life with him being away. But I know for him, I remember being a freshman, that he's just so excited, new experiences, new relationships. Can you just talk about what it was like for you to attend as a freshman in Carolina, but also having your children go off to college, the difference from being a father to being a freshman in college?
It's a circle. It is. I look at the big circle. I remember when I went, I was homesick. I know Michael was also. He was homesick. I want to go back to Asheville. I want to go back to Wilmington. And once you get going, get busy, classes start, you start meeting friends. It gets it works out pretty good. But when our children, we have Jen and I had two daughters and a son. When our first child, Nicole, went to East Tennessee State, it drove me crazy. It was like something's lost in your stomach. Then Olivia went to Meredith and Rob went to High Point. So as the other ones get going, it's not as bad. But every time you leave that campus, my wife was crying or I'd be teary eyed, whatever it is. It's not easy. I remember to this day when I went to North Carolina, it was August 16th, 1980. I'll never forget that day driving down I-40.
Well, Buzz Peterson makes some time. What made you choose number 22?
It's a good question. I don't know. I remember as a kid watching Carolina basketball, and George Karl wore 22 back in the day, and I like George Karl, his play. There's a couple other guys, Steve Previs. I don't know if that name Prebis. I like his game also. So those guys and those numbers, I was got attracted to a little bit.
And so I chose number 22. I'm not really sure why. It's probably because I went to a small school and it was the only number left. But there's just something about 22 that it's fun to see around. Hey, when you went to Carolina and then you won that national championship, can you describe that feeling of maybe not getting as much playing time as you had hoped, but also being a big contributor to the team as well? How did you balance that out from being a high school standout to finding your role at Carolina?
wasn't easy, Jeff. I mean, because you went there to play. You thought if you could beat out another freshman from the other end of the state, you would have a chance to start. I didn't realize at the time that the guy on the other end of the state may be one of the best of all, to me, the best of all time to play the game. But if I had to do it over, I'd do it again. I'd do the same thing. It's humbling a little bit that your playing time's not there, but when you're winning, that helps out a lot. And so the reason why that team was so good, the chemistry was unbelievable. Everybody knew their role. You sacrificed for others. And the bottom line, from the day one when we had our first meeting with Jimmy Black, we got into our dorm room, we had a meeting. He said, "This season is for Coach Smith. We're going to win this for Coach Smith." And so the love we had for him, you just really dug in a little bit more so he could have his first championship. We were sick and tired of him. He couldn't win the big one. We were going to make sure that he was going to win the big one that year. And once you accomplish that, we went to New Orleans. It's just like anything in life when you set out to do, like, I got a project in my yard I want to do, I want to complete it. When you fulfill that goal, whatever, it's a relief. It's a sign to, hey, that was fun while I did it. And it was really exciting, fun year for us.
Now, I've gotten to know Steve Hale a little bit, a pediatrician here in Vermont, and he kind of jokes about how he used to play until Kenny Smith showed up, and then he had to find his spot at the end of the bench. But some of those teams that you played on that did not win the championship, how disappointing was that for you, or was that just part of just basketball and knowing what sports was going to be like?
Well, that's why the NCAA tournament is everybody watches. That's why you have all the office brackets and all that stuff, because it's one and done. It's not like the NBA where you got the best of 7 and all that stuff. So one and done, anything can happen that night, and we've seen it happen throughout the years. UMBC beating Virginia 16-1. We thought that would never happen, but it can happen now with the parity of college basketball. So it's the '84 team, Jeff, and that would have been Steve Hale. That would have been his sophomore year. That team was pretty talented. It had maybe I think 11 McDonald All-Americans out of high school, 10 or 11 out of 14. But it was a very talented group. At one time, we were 21 or 22-0. We lost to Arkansas in a Pine Bluff, Arkansas on a Sunday afternoon after we just got through playing a game in Greensboro. So that team was – I remember Coach Smith saying one time, I heard him say that the '84 team was the most talented team that he had that didn't win the championship.
Well, Coach Smith, I've read so much and I've just admired him from afar, and just being a kid growing up in Vermont, you just kind of pick a team. And so in 5th grade, when they said, "What's your favorite team?" I had an uncle in Asheville, North Carolina. And so I said, well, the Carolina Tar Heels. And ever since, I've been a big fan. Can you just talk about what Coach Smith still means to you? It's just amazing when you hear so many stories, but are those stories still true for you?
Oh, yes. I can give you a great example. I mean, it's number one thing, it's family. Steve Alford is a close friend of mine up in Indiana, and he always told me, he said, "I envy you guys because it's like y'all got a family fraternity. Like, you can pick up the phone, you can call any one of those guys that graduated from North Carolina. You can have a good conversation. It's like you connected right away, and you've been talking for years." I was in Bangor, Maine, playing in the CBA league in 1980. I've been in November '85, whatever, and it came to a point where it just wasn't organized as I had been at North Carolina, and I wanted to coach a little bit. That's something I had in the back of my mind. So I called Coach Smith one day. We were talking, and he said, "How's it going?" I said, "Coach, it's all right. It's here and there. I'd rather, be coaching on stuff." And the next thing I know, he said, "Look, if you're not passionate, your heart's not in it, you need to get out of there. You get out of there, you come back, get back here, and let's meet here in a couple of days. Let's sit down. Let's pan things out." So, there's a guy that's taking time out of his schedule. He's got his own team. Now that you've graduated, it doesn't matter. You're still a part of his family.
Yeah.
And we spent a day or two just going over this. I like to coach, scout, whatever. And just the time he took for everybody makes you feel like a big family.
Yeah, Steve Hale tells a story about how he probably could have made the Nets. He went to training camp. He said he would have been at the end of the bench. And he said how it was not as professional as Carolina, and you certainly didn't have that family feel, so he pursued medicine instead. And
Yeah.
um, can you just share, because you were able to coach, and how did you try to bring into your coaching environment what Coach Smith gave to you?
A lot of things I did. Coach Smith, Coach Guthridge, Coach Fogel, Coach Williams, all what those guys did. I mean, my practice plans, I wanted to be just like Coach Smith's.
Hmm.
I remember I got the job at Appalachian State. This is in '96, and I called him up and I said, Coach, I believe I'm going to get this job. And I said, can you give me some advice? What should I look forward to next? He says, Buzz, the most important thing will be the first 2 hours when you get that job. And I was sitting there thinking, first 2 hours, what is he saying? What he was telling me was the people that are working with me or for you that you hire are very critical for your success and for your time at Appalachian State. So he was telling me, make sure I hire the correct people.
Hmm.
And because when you get a job, any of us, we get a job, we got to hire a team. You're so excited about it. You're already planning who you're going to hire, who you're thinking about. So, I had in my mind who I was going to hire anyway. So, he's been so helpful throughout the year. I mean, things like that. I mean, he told me that was a tough job. Then I left there, went to Tulsa. Bill Self won 30-some games that
Yeah.
year. And he says, Buzz, you're taking the toughest job over in the country. That's the hardest job in the country. You're 30, 35, 36. You're saying, I can do it, all this stuff. And so I went out and did the Tulsa job. So it was a great experience.
Buzz, what did you do with that $200 that Coach Smith left to you?
I had a piece of paper. I've moved so many times, so it's on a piece of paper somewhere. I kept it. I had it framed. The frame broke. I remember that. So it's in the box that I keep my valuable stuff in. Actually, it's a box that they give you in North Carolina. It's like a treasure box, big wooden box somebody used to make for you. So I put all my valuable stuff in that box and lock it up.
Now, Coach, you are with the Charlotte Hornets, and fitting, I guess, you probably get tired of the name Buzz now with the Charlotte Hornets. It used to be the Charlotte Bobcats, and you've ventured with both names. What's it been like to be a part of an NBA organization? Was that kind of a goal that you had all along, or do you kind of miss coaching collegians?
I had my run of coaching. I mean, 26 years, I believe. I had my run of it, and it's I like the scouting part. I really like that of looking at college players, and that's going to be coming to high school players, watching them. But the role now, I enjoy it. Michael has been very loyal. I work under a tremendous man that I've learned a lot from, Mitch Kupchak.
Yeah.
Been with us for a couple of years. So this year has just been, Jeff, it's almost mind-boggling what's happened here in the last 5 or 6 months. But we'll get through it. We'll keep moving forward, and better things will happen.
Now, can we get to your college roommate? You said that you knew Michael Jordan. How well did you know him before you attended Carolina?
We got to know each other coming out of our junior year of high school. We went to camp there. He was my suite mate. He had his high school teammate with him. I had my high school teammate with me. And we never saw each other play that week. Well, I take that back. We played out in the outdoor court a little bit there at Granville Towers. Tremendous athlete, more of a post player at that time, didn't shoot a lot of outside shots. And we just kind of formed a bond. The first time I met him, he said, hey, I'm Mike. I said, hey, how you doing? I'm Buzz. I told him where I was from and everything. He said, how many camps you been to? I said, this is my second. I said, how many you been to? This is my first. Where'd you go? I said, I went to BC camp. That's down in Millersville, Georgia. He said, how'd you get in there? I said, well, you had to have 3 Division I coaches give you a recommendation. And he said, really? He says, I'd like to go there. And I said, well, it's just 1 week. And back then it was kind of, they tried to scan the top 250, 300 kids in the country that come to camp there. He said, you going anywhere else? I said, I'm going to 5-star up in Pittsburgh. He said, how you get in? I said, Michael, you just enroll in that. I mean, I can get in there. I said, ask one of the coaches here. I'm sure they can get you in. And so he went to 5-star. I went up there about a month later. I met him there. He went the week before me, stayed the week that I got there. And the only thing I kept hearing the buzz around there was this kid Jordan from North Carolina. He won the 1-on-1. He was, he won his team won the championship. and people were raving about him when I got up there. So, and that's kind of a relationship started. We kind of said we're going to go to school with one another. We stayed in touch on the phone, and this has been a bond that's been going on for 40 years. And we talked about this a couple months ago through all this, all the tension that started with rioting, racism, all this stuff. Michael and I were discussing this, that, we're like, did you ever look at, when I asked you to room with me, that the color of my skin? I said, no, I didn't. That didn't bother me one bit. So I looked at you inside of your heart, what kind of person you were. And we had a lot of things in common. So, and it's been a relationship that's been for 40 years. And it's been pretty neat.
Yeah, a lot
I
we
never
can
thought
learn.
to this day he would. Yeah, I never thought he'd been like he is, but that, I mean, he was a good roommate at the time and everything.
Well, that's a lot that we can learn just from looking back and seeing how people just chose to get along and just to get to know one another. Something with Jordan, when did you realize that you weren't competing with him, but you were, and I say this respectfully in your own right, you were certainly a great player, but when did you realize that you were looking to be a part of Jordan's legacy versus trying to overthrow Jordan in his starting spot?
My freshman year, when we started doing, like Coach Smith puts you in some situations where he calls it explode drill. That's just one-on-one. I mean, that's just getting in somebody's grill and then playing one-on-one and trying to guard him. Michael's super quick. He could lean down, and I always use this philosophy in coaching. If you get your shoulder by somebody's hip, you got a big advantage in basketball.
Yeah.
And Michael's very good at getting that shoulder by the hip. And of course, he'd dunk on you. He had athletic ability. It didn't take time to figure out this guy's going to be pretty special. And Steve can tell you a lot about it. I mean, those explode drills were not, he'd go in there and mark. I dunked on Buzz twice, Steve once, Kenny once, whatever. So you knew he was going to be a pretty special player.
When you think back about your time in college, do you have any regrets?
Some. I mean, I wish that '84 team could have won it. If Worthy would have stayed for the final year after we won, we'd have had a good chance of winning another one. But you can't fault him for going to draft. Those you wish you could have won more championships, because those were fun. Getting to the Final Four, all that stuff. It's just like every play meant something, and the intensity level was just out the roof.
Now, did you ever participate in those legendary alumni games of Carolina basketball?
Yeah, I did. I remember going to Vegas for one. I remember going out there for that, and there was a couple others. Those were pretty fun. We get uniforms, all that stuff. But boy, I couldn't do it now. That's for sure. No way.
Hey, so when The Last Dance came out, how much of that story did you know before it was on ESPN?
I knew, the some of the parts where he was in Chicago, went on. I knew a lot of it, but not in a lot of the detail stuff. So I learned some new things, but I thought I knew most of everything. The first couple episodes, I knew a lot about that. I didn't know they were going to put that picture up of us riding that bike through campus. Because I didn't own a bike, so I guess I borrowed it that day. But anyway, it's pretty neat to see. I'm glad it came out at that time, because at that time there was no sports at all on TV.
Yeah. Hey, so I definitely want to make this interview about you, and I have a few more questions for you. But if I might just ask about Michael Jordan again, his first couple years in the NBA, did he still reach out to you as a friend, or was he?
Yeah, we stayed in touch a lot his first couple years, just because, again, he was a little homesick. It was different for him. You get drafted at the third pick, whatever, you get to Chicago, and there's nobody to pick you up, to get you to the practice facility. I mean, stuff like that. So it's a lot of, you got to do things on your own. So we stay in touch. I would go up there. I would spend some time with him and visit. And it was tough for him. It was a challenge. He got hurt. He was injured. So it was very difficult that time. But he learned, he grew, and became the best.
Now, what about his relationship with his parents? When did you realize they were so close?
Oh, right away. I mean, because my parents and his parents bonded a lot. Because we went to the Capitol Classic in D.C. out of high school. We went to the McDonald's All-American Game, Wichita, Kansas together. We were in the pre-Olympic sports festival up in Syracuse together. So our parents spent a lot of time, plus our games. My parents traveled also. So we would Pop, Mr. Jordan, we would always go to the races in Charlotte. because he loved NASCAR a lot. So
Hmm.
the families did a lot together. But great people did an unbelievable job of raising their kids. To the point that they really taught them a lot of factors in life skills. I mean, you look at Michael Zola's brother, James Jordan. I call him Ronnie. 30 plus years in the military. 30 plus. And he works for us now, and he's kind of, I call him, he's in charge of everything. So he is really good. He's very on top of things. Anyway, it's a very neat thing. The parents did a great job of raising them.
And so, a question, I have the opportunity to interview Kenny Anderson on next week, and I'm excited about that. But he's been very open about how he did not grow up with a father figure in a very dysfunctional family. Can you talk about the importance of students today having either a role model, a mentor, somebody to fill in with that role?
I think it's very important that you have somebody that keeps challenging you, that makes you stay on top of things. You go back to Michael's dad. I remember Mike, they won the first championship. You know, he always, Michael wanted to play baseball. And that's when Michael gave it a shot because of the love he had for his dad. But you always need that figure, somebody that you can count on that has the best interest for you. And so that's why I think that really helped Michael a lot when his dad was around.
Hey, Buzz, for your time with the Charlotte Hornets, what was the learning curve? How important is it that people continue to be listeners and learners as they just take on different roles? And were you surprised at the learning curve or how easy you found it in this role as assistant general manager?
Well, Jeff, you know what I've found out in life as I've gotten older, you got to be a good listener. I think that's important. And I go back and I think about it. Some of the best coaches I've been around were great listeners. I mean, they really listened, and then they didn't voice their opinion early. Whatever, they sat back, they heard the thoughts, they gathered everything, and then they made their statement from there. So I think my advice I would give to anybody starting out, my son, plays for Tubby Smith at High Point, be a junior this year, and he wants to coach. And I tried to talk him out of it, but I told him, I said, you got to be a good listener, and just consume as much as you can, learn from much you can, and build relationships.
Hey, Buzz, when we look at this current climate, an election coming up that unfortunately I don't think who we elect is going to solve all the problems. It may help and lead the way. But just with this listing aspect, how should we enter into conversations in such a tumultuous time, whether it's COVID, the social injustice, everything that's taking place in 2020?
I always like our players now, or people that I'm, like our trainers, our strength coaches, people like that. I always call them, even our security people. I will call them. I just say, hey, how things going? Tell me what you've been up to. I want to know what they've been doing. I said, tell me how you feel about things nowadays. And so, just trying to get their input and see, because they're all different. Everybody's so different in their beliefs and how they feel and what's going on in their life. And so, I think it's very important that we reach out, we learn about others, and we be very conscious how they feel and try to meet their needs.
That's so good. A couple questions and we'll get you out again. Buzz Peterson, thank you so much for making the time. The Charlotte Hornets, I've had opportunity to play with some great Vermont basketball players that could not get a cup of coffee at a Division I program. When people look at the Hornets or other teams that didn't make the playoffs, sometimes they assume what bums are on that team. Can you just talk about the level of basketball in the NBA and how good you have to be and the chemistry you have to succeed and to make it to that next level?
You got to have a special talent. There's something that she wants to get up there. You got to have a special. Like I'll give you an example. I mean, if you want to be a knockdown shooter, that's what you got to be. You got to hone in on that skill. A point guard, you've got to lead a team, to know what everybody's doing. To be a quarterback out there, you got to be good at that. If you're going to be a center, well, in this league now, you better be a good guy that can roll and catch lobs or be able to shoot threes. So once you can get that knack of something you can find pretty good, you've got a chance to make it. But it takes a lot of luck. It really does, and you've got to be performing at the right time. So it's not easy. These guys are in tremendous shape, great condition. They got to take care of their bodies. They got to eat right, all this stuff. But It takes somebody that's willing to sacrifice, and 82 games is a long year.
Yeah.
And with those practices, it's a long season. It's a lot of things going in. You see a guy plays 30 minutes a game, but 30 minutes a game and going up and down the floor, running and beating against each other like that, it's not easy.
Did you think? What do you think about the NBA bubble? Do you think that's going to take place this upcoming season once this one concludes?
I think the bubble's been tremendous. I mean, it's been really, people are really watching. I've been on some of these calls with the league, and the ratings have been very good. It's only going to get better now. The playoffs. I think this weekend the playing game will be fun to watch. I know the games yesterday were really neat to watch.
Yeah.
So uh, I think it's been a great experience. What guys I've talked to down there, the things I've read, it's been really neat. Now, is that going forward to the success they're having, should we look at that in the future? Maybe so, till we get a vaccine or something that stops all this. There's something that's got to be done, because it'd be nice to get sports back going again. I mean, whether it's college or pro, whatever. I know it's not the most important thing, but sports gives us some kind of relief in our life, something we enjoy to look forward to sometimes when you get home from work or whatever, or whatever it is. I just, it's missed. I know that.
Oh, that's the truth. Hey, so besides Carolina guys, who's the best player that you ever played against? And I guess a follow-up to that is, how good was Len Bias?
That's what I was going to say. Probably Lynn.
Mm.
That's what I was going to tell you. We played against him in college, and he was tough. His tough matchup. He was so athletic, a 2-foot jumper there. I mean, he could get a shot against anybody, and I would have to say, I thought he'd been a very good pro. So Len Bias, by far, is just in college, he was a very good player.
Hmm. Hey, so hopefully a fun question for you. If you were featured in a movie, would you want to play the hero or the villain?
I guess a hero. I don't know.
And that's full time. I'm a pastor, so if it was a fictional movie, I think I would take the villain every time, just
Yeah,
because it'd be a change. Hey,
yeah.
so in that feature film about your life, if or when it comes out, which actor do you want to portray yourself?
You know who I changed throughout the years of actors and everything, but I've been watching some movies come up, and Kevin Costner to me is kind of I don't know. I just like watching Yellowstone. He's in now. I like watching Kevin Costner. Samuel Jackson. There's some. I mean, I go through different periods of times, but what I like. But right now, I'm kind of in the Kevin Costner. I'm just thinking. My wife, I'm watching the show Bosch.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
I can't think of his name, the main actor in it.
Yeah, I know who you mean, though.
But I've enjoyed watching that. It's slow at first, but I kind of like it. But our show right now, my wife and I, is Yellowstone. We really enjoy that. It's pretty neat.
So I stole that question from Hernando Planos. I don't know if you know
Oh yeah,
Hernando, but I always say The Rock. Not that I look like
yeah,
Dwayne Johnson, but
oh yeah.
that'd be great. This next question gets me in trouble. Who would play your love interest in that featured film about your life?
Oh my gosh, you get me in trouble. I'm not saying that. My wife's around here. I'm not going to speak that. I'm going to just be quiet about that. I don't know. I mean.
Hey, so Buzz, social media now, it can be a problem. It can be phenomenal. If you would have had social media when you were in college, how would you have used that platform?
I'd have probably been into it. I know my son, and he got into TikTok there for a little bit. It was like a fan. I think he's backed off a little bit of it now, but I'm sure I'd have been in like any other kid. The one thing that kind of amazes me about it is when I heard Krzyzewski say if social media was around when he was coaching, he probably wouldn't have been the coach at Duke after
Hmm.
3 or 4 years, whatever it was. So it's powerful. It's very powerful. You can't ignore it. It's here. Uh, you just have to be very careful what you say, what you do, what you look at, and everything. So that's why I try to keep that. But my kids tell me all the time, Dad, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. You need to get more into that and all that. So, and they always show me different things. So it's always something new they're showing me.
So, Buzz, the final question that I have for you during this time of uncertainty, um, talking, well, specifically to your kids or your kids' friends, what advice would you give them from one that played for the North Carolina Tar Heels, won a national championship? You were hired and fired from colleges, coaching positions. You've reached what some would say the pinnacle of success, but you've also endured loss and tragedy. What advice would you give to us that are just trying to navigate our way through this? I'm stop saying new normal. I would say the new different. How do
Yeah.
we navigate through this
Well, I
new
was
different?
always try to achieve what you want to. I mean, what do you want in life? What are you trying to reach? What's your goals in your profession? Go after those. I mean, sometimes you won't reach, but sometimes you will. But I will say this: at the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, try to keep things right in the middle. Try to get, you may have you got your goal, you've had success, you got a pay raise, all that stuff. Just keep it right there in the middle because there's going to be some of those low times. And I've been on that side twice. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. The one thing I will tell you, I tell my kids this all the time: when you do make mistakes, go back, think about it, walk those steps, learn from those, and try not to repeat them anymore. And I think that's because we're all going to make mistakes. That's just it's going to happen. It's nature. It's life. How it is now. But when you do make them, going forward, just learn from what happened to you.
So wise, so good. Buzz Peterson. Hey, thank you so much for making the time. We wish
Thank
you all the
you.
best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Stay safe and good luck with the Hornets.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right. Again, that's Buzz Peterson making some time. You're listening to Jay Fuller Interviews on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much for making the time today. It's always a joy. And we love to tell people stories to make your story better, more impactful, and less ignorant. So let's listen and listen some more.